Thank you very much, Mr. Toastmaster. To my fellow Toastmasters and Steve, my goal is to gain parity at the end of 2010, from the beginning of 2010 to the end. So I plan to reach my goal. Have you ever wondered why at most weddings the bride carries a bouquet of flowers? Have you ever wondered where the phrase "don't throw the baby out with the bathwater" came from? Have you ever heard that phrase? I've often wondered about the origin of some other phrases like, "It's raining cats and dogs." And why does there has to be a canopy over a bed? When the bed is inside the house and there's a roof on the house, why do you need a canopy? Ever heard the phrase, "that's a dead ringer," or "holding a wake and graveyard shift"? Well, the way our ancestors lived, the way things were, the way things used to be back in the 1500s is why we have those phrases today, and it's why they're handed down from generation to generation, and you will find that all of those phrases are true. My maiden name is Davis. In the Davis household, back in the 50s, we simultaneously took baths, meaning one after the other. Now, because my father died at the age of 5, when I was 5, sadly to say, my mother called all the shots. So my mother was responsible for saying who took their bath first, second, and so on and so forth. However, back in the 1500s, the father took his bath first. And the baths were taken in big bathtubs full of hot water. So the father first, then the boys, then the mother, then the daughters, and last, the baby.
Oh.
By the time the baby got to take his bath, or her bath, the water was so dirty that you couldn't see the baby. Thus the phrase, "don't throw the baby out with the bath water." Now, baths during that time were taken once a year. And these baths were taken in May. And since most weddings were held in June, by June, you still smelled pretty good. However, the bodies start to stink a little bit, so the brides carried a bouquet of flowers, which is why the brides carry a bouquet. Did you know that? It's actually true. Now, houses back in the 1500s had thatched roofs, which means they had piles and piles of straw piled on top of each other. In order for the animals to keep warm, they lived in the roofs. So the smaller animals like the cats, the mouse, they lived in the roof. So when it rained, the roof became slippery. And the animals would slide off the roof. Thus the phrase is raining cats and dogs. Now in the bedroom, that was a very, very rare problem. So in order to protect your clean bed linen, you tied a sheet on the end of four posts, thus the canopy bed. Rich, you might want to invest in a canopy bed for your daughter someday, so at least you'll have the history.
That's right.
Yes. Now, in the olden days, this is my great-grandmother, we had a fireplace, and we kept a pot hanging over the fireplace, which is how our meals were made. So in the pot was stew made of mostly vegetables. So you never use all of the stew. So you leave some stew in the pot for a long time. And then you keep adding and adding more vegetables to the pot. Thus the phrase, peas porridge hot, peach porridge cold. Peas porridge in the pot, 9 days old. Now, if you were a little wealthy, you had a piece of pork that you could add to the pot, but in order to show off, you would hang it on the fireplace so people could see it, and they would think you're really wealthy. So when visitors came by, the homeowner would cut a piece of fat off the pork, and everybody would chew and talk, thus the phrase, chew the fat. During those times, when my father had a whiskey mill called a still gin. So during those times, they drank whiskey out of a lead cup, and they mixed lead and ale together, which is pretty strong and potent. So men often got drunk off of those, drinking those. And they would drink and pass out, and they could be passed out for a couple of days, and people passed by and thought they were dead. So they would take the body and lay it on the dining room table and wait there for a couple of days to see if they would wake up. Thus the phrase, the wake. You know, before funerals you have the wake. And then in Old England, 1 out of 5 of the buried dead was buried alive. So what they did was dug up the graves and took the bones to a bone mill, and then they buried people in the box. So what they decided to do is tie a string to the finger of the dead, just in case they woke up, then they would chime the bell. And the graveyard watcher would know that the person was alive. That's the graveyard ship and a dead ringer. Now all of these are true, and I have some handouts that I'm going to pass around to you with the reference site. And this is how we get those phrases that are passed around from generation to generation. Thank you.